Hello, everyone! Welcome to the Achievement Hunting 101 Game Club for OXENFREE. Last week we started playing OXENFREE, and we got started with the story. We met Alex, her best friend from childhood, Ren, her new stepbrother, Jonas, Ren's crush, Nona, and we met their classmate, Clarissa. We were also introduced to the setting of Edward's Island and the strange goings on there. This week, we're going to dive in and really get the story going, and that means we're moving into spoiler territory. So even though last week we didn't get very far, this week we're really going to get going with this, and we're not going to hold back. So we're going to talk about everything that could happen. So if you want to experience Oxenfree for yourself and join us in the game club, I recommend doing so. Give a chance to play the game on your own, no guides, spoiler free. But if that doesn't matter to you and you want to stick with us for the conversation, hear our experiences with it, thank you for sticking with us. We hope we give you guys a good time. So today we start the story from our experiences at the top of Hardened Tower, where we made our decision about which of the characters we were going to rescue first. Either Ren off in the woods or Clarissa off in Fort Milner. But before we start talking about how that worked out for us, I need to introduce our discussers for this week. With me again, I have Carpe Adam 79
Hello.
and Freemhole.
Hello, everybody.
And now, last week, you guys told me that you had both ended up selecting Ren as the character that you were going to save. So we're going to start that discussion with figuring out how that went for you, the path that you went on to go save Ren. So the first thing you have to do to save Ren is figure out where he is.
Yes, sir. Thankfully, they introduce you to a handy map feature, which paints a nice, fun picture of the island. Although it is super unclear. Well, it's not super clear, but it's not terribly obtuse, especially when you see on the screen you really only have two ways to go with arrows pointing the other way. And one arrow clearly points to Fort Milner, and the other one is kind of go that way and see what happens.
Yeah, the map doesn't show actual paths or anything like that. It's very, very basic. Just in that direction is the next area you want to go to. But as far as the path to get there, it's not really shown. So there, which really it just kind of leads to more exploration in a way. So it works.
Now, I want to keep us moving pretty swiftly, so I'm going to jump us right past the point where we have to do some very light puzzling to get over the gondolas. And really, our first interesting segment of the path to go save Ren is when we get to the lakeside. We approach the lakeside, and Jonas is talking to us, and we start to walk down the path by the lake. And this is where the weird stuff starts to happen on this side of the island. So we walk past the lake, and we perhaps have a chance to see what's going on in the campsite that's been abandoned, and then all of a sudden, we're right back where we started from and walking past the same portion of the lake all over again. Guys, we're stuck in a time loop.
It was really weird, especially I mean, you've kind of gotten some hints of some of the weird stuff that's been going on, and things appearing out of nowhere. Like just before we got to this, there was that power station when the lights went out, and then all of a sudden there was a chair in the middle of the path. I was like, what the hell is that? And so it's happening again here at the lake, and you're like, okay, that fire pit wasn't there before, but whatever. It's just a little game thing, and maybe we can let's just go see what's going on with it. I think it's weird that Jonas doesn't know he doesn't get what's going on because you have to kind of explain to him no, you've done this already. And from a gameplay standpoint, it makes sense because us as a third party observer, we know what's going on because we can see Alex. And so the game director was like, well, the player knows, so let's let Alex know that we're in a time loop, but no one else around her can know. And so it becomes this weird scenario of hey, Jonas, how do I convince you something weird's happening when I can't really do anything about it? This fire wasn't here before. Those words you said, I know exactly what you're going to say before you say it. This whole and that's just the nature of time loops is how can you convince someone of something that's happening or has already happened? It's super bizarre.
one of the difficulties of a time loop is once you start introducing time loops into a story, you're never entirely sure where they start or where they end. You have the obvious one in front of you of walking through this and looping back to this point, but does it mean that we're in meta time loops? We'll come back to that idea perhaps a little bit later on. But for right now, let's really dig into what this time loop is all about. You walk past the lake, and things start to change. There is the fire pit, but the next time through, the fire pit is on fire. It's actually a fire. The abandoned camp has a fire going at it. Our next time through, there's a soccer ball.
Yeah, that soccer ball was strange. It was pretty funny though when like you make a comment of like, "Oh, I had this exact soccer ball when I was a kid," and Jonas is like, "Oh, God forbid a toy company makes multiple items of the same object to try and turn a profit. Boy, that's weird." And you're like, "Just shut up. This is totally the same. Leave me alone."
The fact that Jonas is talking like that was a little bit irritating. He's, condescending. And I said to myself as I was playing it that, you know what, Jonas, I'm just going to kick this ball right into your face. And as soon as I said that, the icon changed from just being the soccer ball to the kick the ball icon. I was like, cool. Jonas, here it comes. But that's not what happened. I did not kick Jonas in the face with the ball.
It definitely did not go that way. And it was funny that when you kicked it, it was just it was kind of a baby kick. And you're like, oh, that was, and then all of a sudden, zoop, it comes right back.
See, yeah, I didn't take it as a baby kick. Like, as soon as I kicked that ball and I saw it stop, I knew it was stopped by something.
Oh, really? I didn't think
wasn't
it did. I thought it was just kind of you were
that's
just
how
tapping
I took it. No, I took it that I kicked it and something stopped the ball. And that's why it didn't go very far.
Interesting.
And then it kicks it right back to you. Then the next time you kick it, it goes all the way to the edge of the screen. And it's gone.
Well, it comes right back again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate at that point where Jonas saw it and he's like, "Whoa, hold on, what just happened there? That's not right."
Yeah, he wants to take a photo of the moving ball. The problem with taking a photo of a moving ball is that it's just a photo of a ball at that point. The photo doesn't move.
No, you mean there aren't little lines to show that the ball's moving?
Action lines.
Yeah. With what you said though about Jonas's attitude and how he's condescending, have you noticed that people get that way when an entity is around, but they're not like that normally? Because I'm trying to think, with Jonas, was he like that just when the two of them are walking around, or only when something funny was happening?
Interesting. No, he's usually pretty easygoing, fairly laid back.
Yeah, I didn't think of him being really a jerk towards her at all. But
I'm also wondering, in those other scenarios, other people were around as well. So is it that he doesn't know these, strangers, and so he's very reserved when, other members of the party are around? Or now that...
Well, he really doesn't know Alex that well either, though.
That's true. That is true.
So, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. I'll keep looking for that the more I play.
So after we have the fun with kicking the soccer ball, it's still not done. The time loop's not over yet. We loop again, and this time Jonas isn't with us anymore. He's disappeared completely.
Yeah, that was weird too. This whole scenario is weird. Well, and the whole imagery changed, so it wasn't your normal kind of cloudy, foggy. The colors became more vibrant. The surrounding area seemed staticky. I felt like the blues were really blue. So it lends itself to the fact that, to me, I thought in this time loop scenario, we were no longer in quote unquote the normal loop. I felt like we got pulled out and went on this separate path. Not that Jonas was pulled out, but that we were pulled out, because this is a different, I don't know, dimension or different world or something. I thought we were the ones who were moved out, and maybe Jonas is standing there by the gondola still.
Interesting. Fantastic. So you start walking across the path by the lake again. Tell me what happened next.
yeah, when you see your own reflection and it starts talking to you,
Like very
and it's not
directly.
because you're talking at that moment and you're just watching yourself talk to yourself, but that was weird.
What did your reflections say to you?
It I can't remember what mine exactly said. I know from discussions that says something about Michael, right? Michael and Clarissa.
Yeah, my reflection said, "Yep, Michael should break up with Clarissa." That was the comment that it made to me. Something like I don't know if that's directly what it said, but Michael should break up with Clarissa. And my response to that was like, "But Michael's dead."
Wait a second. So I get it now. So what's going on is at this moment she's no longer in present time. She's in the past. That reflection is when she was there with Clarissa and Michael in the past. That's something that maybe she was having a conversation with herself at that moment,
Could be.
and that's replaying to her there because now she's outside of normal time and she's gone back into the past sort of, and that's where she's seeing her reflection.
Hmm.
So that is her reflection. That's not her, but it's her reflection from the past when she was standing there and she was talking to herself.
Interesting.
Yeah, this reflection is interesting, and I want to come back to it a little bit later on. And depending on how long this conversation goes, and maybe next week when we come back to it, but I'm going to come back to it, I promise, because I think this reflection is going to be one of the most important points to take away from the game entirely.
Interesting.
We'll move on, and we walk past the lake, our reflection having talked at us, and we zap back one more time, and this time there's a strange device by the lakeside.
Right.
It's an old style magnetophone, a piece of World War II era hardware for sound recording, like a reel to reel tape
Is that? Oh, I
device.
was gonna say the way you explained it, I was like, well, what the hell are you talking about? But yeah, that's exactly what it looks like. It looks like a tape, an old tape player, and for those non olds out there, it's like a cassette tape, which we used to listen to music on before CDs. It was remarkable. Um,
What's a CD?
yeah, but like the way that you interfaced with it, it showed this. There was a little tutorial, right, and shows your little thumb wheel going around. And to me, that what it looked like is you have to rotate your thumbstick, the right thumbstick. It reminded me of like when you would put your pinky finger or like a pencil or something into the spokes of that cassette tape, and to like rewind it and tighten up the band of music or whatever. So the imagery to me was, hey, the world that's playing right now is kind of loosey goosey. It's fallen off the rails a little bit. So just get in there and just tighten it up a little bit. We got a little time loop. Just tighten that up a little bit, and we'll get back on track with the current timeline.
That's an interesting way of looking at it because of how time is kind of moving around. So it's kind of like time is on one piece of tape. It's like this steady piece of tape, but you can kind of move back and forth. And after you do that a few times, it loosens up. So to get everything back to how it's supposed to be, maybe it's more like not. Well, I guess it could be either be that or it could be more like rewinding or fast forwarding back to where you're supposed to be.
Right.
I don't know. Either way, but that's an interesting way with the tape and everything. Everything's very much with like either that or with the whole transmissions thing it's going on where it's like everything is a radio transmission. It's really kind of interesting how it's all kind of coming together in a way.
Yeah, the game plays around with sound a
Oh,
bunch,
definitely.
and that's one of the reasons why it gets under my skin so successfully because the audio aspects are so well done. They spent a lot of time. One of the things that the developers had as a goal was to mix analog and digital so that the digital sounds in the video game sounded analog. And they used actual recordings, and then they also made up recordings on the old style equipment. They went out and got old pieces of equipment to make new recordings on so that it would have that quality of sound as they
Oh, is that
digitized
right?
it.
I didn't know that. That's pretty cool.
The soundtrack is something I'm going to talk about as well, and I think this might be a good place to bring it up. The soundtrack by Scientific is really pretty unique. The music is remarkably robust. It has a lot of interesting things in it that tie into some of the secrets on the island. So we'll probably talk about that a little bit later on. But it's also really interesting music that it sets the tone for the entire game, not just in terms of the emotion, but also just the style, where it uses a lot of the techniques that the game's trying to use with its audio throughout as well.
Hmm.
That's pretty cool.
On the cassette tape idea of using the pencil to wind it back up again, I think that's interesting because I know that as another old, I did that a bunch on my cassettes. It was
Me
always a
too.
tricky thing because you knew that every time you did it, you had to do it, but every time you did it, you were one more time closer to that tape just snapping and not being usable
Yep.
anymore. So every time we're spinning that wheel and winding this tape back up, I have to wonder how much closer are we to just snapping reality here?
It's interesting. Yeah, if you play out that metaphor a little bit more.
Oh, I didn't think about it that way. That's really interesting.
But we do succeed. We bring it back at least this time, and we move forward. We can head our way around the cliffs and find some anomalies, perhaps. I know, Adam, you found a fair number of anomalies in your playthrough.
Yeah, I think I found 6 or 7 so far.
Still at 0. I don't even know what I'm looking for.
Yeah, every time I see something on the ground that looks a little funny, I feel like it's a marker, like how we had all those stacked stones at the beginning when you learned about those anomalies in the first place. Anytime I see something, anything like that, or anything out of the normal, I just turn the radio on and I start messing around and see if something happens. Found some creepy stuff, that's for sure.
Is it? And it's all played through the radio.
The game is just chock full.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. The game does a great job of including these clues to the overall story. They're not really necessary, but the more you find, the more you're going to understand aspects of the story, and it will change how the game plays out for you. You don't need to find them at all, except eventually you're going to have to find them all for achievements, of course. But as you play through, the ones you find will change how the game is experienced. It's not going to change the game, but it's going to change your experience, and therefore what you think the end result of the game should be and is likely to be.
Yeah, I think the most notable one for me that I found so far is the one that talks about the people found dead in the cars in the water.
Was it? Was it like a news broadcast or?
Yeah, I think so. I think it was like, correct me if I'm wrong, Kronos. I think it was like a news broadcast about finding four teenagers, but I think it was in
Yep.
2 different cars,
Yep.
which
And it was all underwater.
and it's interesting because when they all went to the island originally, they arrived separately.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got
Yeah, the 3 on the
Clarissa
boat, and then
and
Clarissa and Nona got there
yeah.
somehow. We don't know.
So it's but there's 5 instead of 4. So then it makes you wonder, so who's the odd one out in that situation? Is it Alex and all the other 4 are dead and she's actually alive, or is she one of the dead ones, or is it not even that? So that's kind of where I'm trying to piece it all together right now. But that's where it took me to with
Huh.
everything that's going on.
That's super interesting.
I love how those little things make you think about it. Without that one radio play, you're not necessarily having those
Hmm.
considerations, and how it's going to play out in the end will be very different as well as because of those
Like
things.
me, I didn't hear them, and this is all new to me.
Go find those things, man.
Well, yeah, now that I know what I'm looking for, I mean, and it's funny because yeah, they distinctly showed it to you at the beginning, like, oh hey, by the way, these rock piles, they're important. I just didn't pay attention.
Story wise, the rock piles are left by previous teenagers who visited the island and were messing about as well. And, just were exploring the radio in different parts of the island and found something interesting at that point. So that marks a point that you can find something interesting there. And it's different from the radio signals you get on the rest of the island, which are themselves very
Hmm.
interesting, full of weird little tidbits.
Man, oh man.
we meet up with Nona. She's the first person we see on this path, other than Jonas, of course, or our reflection. And she's not all right. We thought
Definitely
she might be
not.
with Clarissa, but she's not with Clarissa. She's here, and she has not had a good evening.
That's putting it mildly.
Yeah, the strangest thing about that whole situation is the fact that she feels like that she's already run into you once before, other than when everybody was on the island together. Like she's run into Alex since the last time Alex remembers running into her.
Yeah.
Do you remember what Nona talked about? What she says that Alex had told her the last time they met?
No, I don't remember specifically, but she was not happy about it.
Yeah, she said. Well, I know she said she
Yeah.
saw us at the pier, but that was all. I don't remember the context with which, like, what we had said to her.
She says something along the lines of, "I don't need you talking to me again about my dead grandfather."
Oh, weird.
Oh.
So whoever was Alex that she saw earlier was telling her things about her deceased family members.
Huh. Much like how Alex told herself about Michael and Clarissa, dead family members.
Yep.
Huh. So well, no. I don't know how Alex would have known about her dead family members, though.
Well, Nona was part of this crew beforehand, right? So it's not necessarily out of the realm of believability. It's just
Yeah,
Alex
but would Nona,
Jonas who doesn't know.
It's clear Jonas couldn't have told her, but Alex, through some story we're going to find perhaps a little bit later on, perhaps not, depending on what choices you make in your playthrough, we find out that Alex and Nona aren't particularly close. They might probably know each other from school as in acquaintances, but they're not friends. They probably don't know a whole lot about each other's lives.
Gotcha.
So that is an odd thing for Alex to be talking about.
Yeah, and that would make sense since Nona and Clarissa seem to be friends, and Alex isn't really a fan of Clarissa's, and Clarissa's not a fan of Alex's, so it would make sense that Alex and Nona probably didn't talk much.
Yeah, I get that vibe, I suppose.
Yeah.
Nona doesn't even want to talk to us right now.
No.
So she's trying to get away from us as quickly as she
Yeah,
can.
it's almost like she's afraid of them.
Well, she's truly spooked. The evening has, like I said, not gone well for her. She has had a couple of bad experiences. Maybe she's been stuck in a time loop of her own. We don't really know because she's not telling us. All we know for sure is that she doesn't want to have anything to do with either us, Alex, or Jonas, or the two of us. She doesn't want to join up with us, doesn't want to hear from us, just wants to go find someplace safe if she can, and she doesn't think we're safe.
Right.
I thought so during this conversation, like I tried to change because I clearly could tell that she was, nervous, spooked, didn't want to have anything to do with us. So I was trying to diffuse the situation by changing the subject. And so I was like, "Oh, hey, let's talk about something that she would be interested in." And so the option to say, "Hey, have you seen Clarissa around?" And so I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, I do think I know where she is. Let me answer her to try and like calm her nerves and say, hey, yeah, we're on her way to go see her after we go get Ren. So just stick along with us. Come with this. We'll make a bigger group. Everyone will be happier." And so one of the options is to say, yeah, she's in Fort Milner. And when I clicked that one, I started to talk, and Jonas immediately cut me off. I was like, oh, she's at Fort, and Jonas like, you know what? Why don't you just go back to the comms tower, and you can wait for us there. We'll be right back. Just take, you'll be safe there. It's fine. And at that point, I was so weirded out. Like, why? What was the harm in saying, I think she's in Fort Milner, we're going to go get her? Where Jonas felt the need to, like, say, no, it should just be you and me on this little adventure alone. We don't need her around. Get rid of her. This has really raised some questions about Jonas to me. What are his intentions? What's going on? Is he everything he says he is? I'm getting a little nervous now that Jonas is making some questionable decisions.
I will say that I know that would be a very, very different experience if you guys had gone to Fort Milner to try and save Clarissa. But in this context, that makes perfect sense, and I hear exactly what you're saying.
Oh, so if you go to Fort Milner first,
Yeah, you will have already known what happened to Clarissa.
right, and you don't run into Nona until after you've seen Clarissa.
Yep.
Correct.
Yeah,
And
wow.
if the same scenario happens to Clarissa, what happened in this direction, I could see why he would want to change topics pretty darn quick. That absolutely makes sense. But at this point, we don't know what has happened, and you'll have to let us know, Kronos, if the events that unfold in our loop as in Ren to Clarissa, are the same as Clarissa to Ren. Because in my head, they're flip flopped. That what happens to Clarissa in our version happens to Ren if you go the other way. Because you hit him with the
Right.
big
Unfortunately,
surprise thing at the end.
We're getting ahead of ourselves
Yeah.
there.
So let's we can rewind
So
and
we'll come back to that a little
revisit.
bit later on. We work with Nona, but at the end of the day, she is just not having it. She is going to. We convince her to go to the tower and wait for us there, but that's the best that we can do.
Yeah, and I ended up doing that accidentally.
Yeah, that's fine.
And now I know that that's pretty much what was going to happen anyway. But at first, I was thinking that I messed up because I was trying to get her to stay with us.
Right.
Because having her just go off by herself didn't seem like a very safe thing for her to do. But so I thought maybe I had messed up, and so it's good to know that I guess that's pretty much the only option. She's gonna, no matter what you choose, she's gonna go to the tower.
Yeah, in a game like this, obscuring the parts that are mandatory is always difficult, and I think the game does a pretty good job of it.
Mm-hmm.
There are a couple of sections, especially in my first playthrough, where I was convinced that I must have done something wrong, and it was impactful when those things happened. It's like, well, I guess I just screwed up. I screwed up the game, and now I have to live with the consequences, and I'm not happy about that. But in subsequent playthroughs, I learned that it was essentially inevitable. So sometimes we feel really bad about it, but maybe it's all going to work out the way the game is expecting it to work out, even though it doesn't feel like it right now. So I'll give you guys a little bit of solace there. It is still deterministic. We have choice. We can control certain things, but not as much as the story is letting us believe at this point.
Sure.
We finish off with Nona, and we come around, and we finally meet up with Ren. The reason why we came this way, we wanted to get to Ren, we wanted to save him, and he's hanging out in the ranger cabin all by his lonesome.
Boy, was he excited to see us.
He's coming down off his high.
High as a kite.
Yeah, he was. But it was a short-lived excitement. He
Yeah, that saving him. Maybe it's really good that we came to visit him and save him, because he seems like he's fine on his own. But as soon as we get there, he kind of needs us.
Yeah, he starts to break down, and I'm trying to remember what exactly happened after we saw him, because as you try to progress, whoop, there you go, you're back at the beginning again. Guess what? Another time loop.
We just had one of these time loops.
This time the time loop gets a little funky because of how Ren is acting. I got almost like I think a Blair Witch vibe from him. You know, the whole, like, not that he was staring at a corner, but, you know, very similar type of thing, like head slouched down and just kind of, it was very...
Is this before or after he was dancing?
Very creepy. What's that?
Is this before or after he was dancing? Because I thought it was weird when...
I think that's after he was dancing.
Yeah, because he went up to that little area and he's doing the... I mean, he looked like a marionette, right? A puppet. And his arms and legs are kind of jauntily bouncing up and down. His head's bobbling.
We got to finish the time loop, which doesn't take much. It's the same mechanic as before. You twist the cassette and reel the tape back in, and get Ren to stop mumbling, and then he disappears.
And that's where the two...
He's very clearly Ren.
Yeah, that's where the two record players are, right? To fix the loop? Because there's one on each side of him.
Yeah, there are two. There are two of the magnetophones.
Yeah,
and you spin those.
So I thought it was weird that he had to do two.
Play some music.
Like I didn't understand why he had to do two. Like he could have.
Yeah, we only had to do one last time.
Yeah, and so like I'm trying to like look into it about, is there a purpose? Like what? Because you could have gotten the same effect as, if you play out this scene, you could have gotten the same effect with just doing it once. Like the fact that you do it twice seemed weird. Um, I'm not sure if the order in which you did it was mattered, because I did the one on the right first, the closest to the what is the perceived exit versus the cabin, the ranger's cabin. So I don't know if you do the ranger's cabin first and you go the other way if some events change, but given all the the scenario events, I can't imagine that they do change in subsequent playthroughs. So I was just it was strange that we had to do it twice.
Something to set it apart from the last time, perhaps. But yeah,
Maybe.
it doesn't seem to make any difference. Right or left, you do them both, and you break the time loop. Ren disappears again. He's just gone. Just like Jonas disappeared the last time. Only he disappeared in the time loop. This time we broke the time loop, and now Ren's gone. We've lost him again.
Can and at this point, like there's no possibility of leaving the screen, right? Like no matter what, you will find him. You can't avoid the scenario of finding him up on the cliffside.
I can't imagine that it's possible. I don't remember testing it specifically.
Yeah,
But I can't imagine you don't find him one way or the other.
yeah. I
Um,
I would think that's the case.
you mean you're talking about just find him over on the other end from just past the cabin he was in,
Yeah, up on the cliffside.
where
'Cause-
he ends up like up in the air.
Oh yeah, yeah. Because I just by chance happened to look that way because I hadn't explored the area. I mean, immediately when I saw the cabin, I was like, oh, I should go check that out first. And then Ren was in there, and then all the events took place. So after Ren disappeared, I was like, okay, well, I haven't explored this area yet, so I'm going to explore. And then I found him. So I don't know if you had already done the exploring. If you're like, well, I'm just gonna move on then. I don't think, like you said, Kronos. There's no way because the events that happen here are so critical. When you see Ren, and he is at the edge of this precipice, looking like he's on fire. Look, he looks like the Dead Cells guy. He's got black smoke pouring out of him, and he is slumped over on his knees. He looks just like a pile, like a dead human pile, except that he's smoking with black and they're not even flames. It's like this black smolder, this cloud. Um, and I'm trying to remember exactly, but I feel like there's that little faint, like a little faint red light in there, similar to the
Yeah, it's like his eyes. Are
yeah,
red.
similar to
Yeah.
the red that we've been seeing in some of these interactable elements.
Mhm.
Like a lamp or lighthouse or whatever you want to call that thing. We see some of these red elements where if you tweak the radio, you can do something. And so immediately I see that, and it's like, okay, well, here's my mechanic. Let's start messing with him, and boy, do you mess with him. That radio does a number on him. That's for sure.
It seems to be causing him significant pain. Honestly,
He doesn't look good.
He's not having a great time.
Especially like so. I'm trying to remember the course of events because does the triangle show up first or does he levitate in the air first? One of the two things happen, and both of those are like, okay, well, something's happening, but like the imagery of his body raising as if you were lifting him by his tongue, and his arms are shooting out to the side. I mean, like you said, the imagery is that this is painful, and he is doing things that are not of his own control. And it continues to intensify as you are dialing in the stations. So you see the triangle; it starts to do its line. He's raising up. Beams of light are shooting out of his extremities, and Jonas is over there going, I don't know if you should do this, man.
Your options are: got any better ideas? And I think I'm helping.
I think I'm helping.
Yeah, it's back to the whole thing where it's like, if this was going on for real, I can't imagine I would be doing the same thing that I'm doing. But because it's in a game, I know that this has got to be the answer, right? Because it's not like I can just pull him down.
Yeah.
This is the only thing I know of that works with these anomalies or entities or whatever's happening. So let's go for it.
Well,
And if he
yeah.
screams a little, oh well.
And the fact that something is happening with you interacting, like,
Yeah.
but you're right. In real life, if you were doing this and this thing is, yeah, I'd be gone in a second.
Running back to the ferry as fast as your little legs will carry you.
Yeah, that would have happened long before all this stuff happened.
But we gotta find everybody. We gotta save everybody. We can't
Yeah.
just leave them behind to save ourselves. We're good friends. We're good friends. So that's why we gotta save Ren. That's why we gotta pull out the radio and use the triangle. We gotta use the triangle to save Ren.
Yeah, so we complete the triangle. It opens up another dimension, portal, whatever you want to call it, and Jonas disappears. He's gone. And we start to have a conversation.
What did the entity say to you this time? Last time we didn't get very far. We were trying to suss out who they were and answer a couple of questions. But it was a very short conversation. I was able to recite the entire thing. This time there's back and forth. The dialogue options will give you different responses rather than sort of a set thing every single time.
Yeah. So
how did the conversation go for you guys?
my approach was, so I was like, clearly at this point I'm freaked out. Even not only Alex as a character, but Brandon as a human is freaked out. And so my comment to them is, we need help. Something's going. We need help. And I don't remember. I didn't write down the entire transcript, so I don't know exactly what everything said. But Alex, like, there's a specific things I wrote down here. Was Alex said, "We need to go home." Like, we got to get off this island. We need to go home was my comment, and the voices said, "I'll go home." And I was, and it's like, wait, what? What do you mean I'll go home? What's happening? And when Jonas had left, there was some mention of Adler. I think either Alex. I think Alex said it. Of like, the voices said something about a woman, and I was like, the Adler woman. And the voices said, "Was young once. We were young once." I was like, what the hell's going on here? Like, it was messed up. What were some of the other options? Like, what could have happened?
Well, they start off by talking about how it's hard to talk through the child. They feel stretched, but now that we've used the triangle to open it up, it's better now. Then they say, "We are abounding, not one." So this is, I mentioned last time that we were possibly dealing with multiple entities. This is one of those clearest sentiments that this is, in fact, multiple entities.
Mm-hmm.
The interesting thing about multiple entities for me is that when you have multiple entities, you don't just have a single will.
Right.
In most cases, you can have a hive mind, but we could be dealing with entities that have a lot of different goals. They may have some overriding goals that they're all in favor of, but they're going to be interested in doing it in different ways, perhaps.
For sure.
And then ultimately, we move on. They talk about how we're silly, but they don't want us to be scared of them. They don't think that they're all that scary. We're terrified. Do not be scared. You are dolls. Would never hurt you.
That's eerie.
Yeah, that's not particularly reassuring to me, that they say that they wouldn't or couldn't hurt us.
Yeah, but when they call you a doll,
that's not friendly either.
No, you're very well, and it with the imagery of the puppetry, the dancing puppet and the hanging, the holding of Ren up in the air, like, it's not lost on us that yes, you're treating us like puppets and dolls, but I don't recall ever hearing the phrasing, "we would not hurt you." So at this point, because I haven't heard that, I am in a bad way. I'm like, man, these ghosts can do whatever they want to us, and we are just screwed.
Well, you mentioned that you said you wanted to go home, and at some point, I think in every situation they start talking about going home. We will go home, all of us, because leave is possible. And so at that point, they actually recite something back to you that you said to them in the cave the first time round. They asked, "Is leave possible?" And you're given a dialogue choice. And whatever you said in the cave, the entity repeats back to you now in your own voice.
That was cool.
Like it was recording you on one of those radio waves.
Mm-hmm.
And they end the conversation with Pretty Little Poppy, tag, you it.
That's messed up.
It definitely feels like they're playing a game, but it's not a friendly, happy game. They treat us like playthings, but they
Mm-hmm.
also have a goal where they want to get out of wherever they are, and they think that we are perhaps the tool by which they're going to get out. And we have the radio, so maybe they're right. Maybe we're doing something to help them with that.
I like it.
I just get the bad feeling that like their way out is to possess their bodies. You know, that's the big fear. That eventually they're just gonna possess you, and maybe that's why. Maybe that's part of the reason why you have those moments of lost time, because for a moment you're possessed by one of those ghosts.
Yeah, could be.
Yeah.
Definitely could be.
Puts a different spin on the idea of our time loops.
Yeah. Well, see, that was the whole thing with how at the beginning, when we first do the thing in the cave and we all end up kind of spread all over the island, um, it to me that's kind of like that's what happens there, is like that's when the time loops started maybe. And so each person kind of went and did whatever they did. Like they did, I don't think they were just transported. I think everybody walked to wherever they ended up,
Yeah.
but they don't remember it because of these things that are happening with these time loops or something.
I
Either
mean,
that or they were possessed
oh,
and walked over to that. Well, they were possessed and then the entity left their body.
it very well could be them just playing a game of tag if they're kids and use them as puppets. They're like, "Hey, let's just play a game." And so I'm gonna take this body, you take that body. Let's just have fun. And oh, we ended up in different places. The humans took over. We got to go. It could be as
Yeah.
silly as that.
We conclude the conversation with the entity, and they give Ren control back of Ren, and we can move forward. He feels a little bit shaken by the experience, but he's a motor mouth and he's still very hyperactive, so he bounces back pretty quickly. He recognizes that it's been weird, but he's ready to move on to his next step and is not a whole lot worse the wear for his experience.
During these like time loops and stuff, Jonas was getting headaches and stuff. To our like Ren
Yeah.
didn't say anything about feeling any different or feeling weird at all, right? He just is like,
Well, he's eaten more of his brownies, so he's
oh
feeling
yeah, maybe that's what
high.
it is.
Didn't he? Did he eat more of it before that whole situation happened? I can't remember where the timeline is on that. I just remember when he tells us about it, and like I remember my my dialogue choice was something like, what are you doing? Are you crazy or something like that? And of course Jonas was definitely not happy about it either.
Yeah, Jonas and Ren are starting to have a little bit of an antagonistic relationship, which is interesting because they're under stress, and Ren's reaction to it is, "I'm gonna just try and level out," is his words, with some more of my drugs. And Jonas has been there trying to help us get through these things and being very practical, although maybe not the most observant guy in the room.
No.
Yeah, but I definitely side with Jonas on this one. I mean, you're in a situation where you feel like your lives are on the line. People are missing, and the only thing you can think to do is get high. I think you would want to be more of sound mind and judgment and alert so that you can make the right decisions.
Yeah, that would be my choice.
The three of us decide then to try and make it back to the tower so we can drop Ren off where he can recover from his ongoing highs and stick around with Nona to babysit for him because she's gone back to the tower. And we can do the hard work of going to Clarissa, which I think we're going to have to catch up with next time. It's probably been covered by some of our community already, so this maybe is not the best stopping point. We wanted to keep moving forward, but we've got a lot of ground to cover in this game.
Oh man, yeah.
So we're going to keep things moving week to week so we can hit all of the things and give it the discussion that it deserves, because this game has a lot going in.
For sure, and
That
I
it
have a
does.
lot to say about what happens next.
Yeah, I don't want to rush through the side on Clarissa's playthrough because I think that is really worth delving into. I want to do it full justice. So we'll come back to that in a week's time. Gives you an extra chance to play the game if you haven't already.
Just to be clear, though, Ren just takes off on his own back to the tower, right?
Yeah.
You never had the option of going backtracking. You just went to the bridge to the right toward Fort Milner. Okay, just checking.
I think you could possibly backtrack and get all the way back to the tower and maybe check up on them, but you're not going to have anything significant there. He's going to go off and meet up, but you will move on.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I can't wait to talk to you guys again about what the hell happens in Fort Milner.
Fort Milner is an experience.
This whole game is an experience. I can't wait to be able to just get back to it and keep on going through. I don't want to play ahead just because I don't want to have something, get something out of order and talk about something at the wrong time. But man, every time we talk about it, it makes me just want to play it more.
For sure, I'm hooked.
I love hearing that. I love this game, and I love that other people are hooked on it too. We'll give it another chat in a week's time. Hopefully we have more feedback from the community as well, and maybe even someone else from the community joining us. A great place to catch up with us is the Discord if you're not there already. That's discord.io/AH101. And we have a channel there for Oxenfree discussion. Come on in and talk to us about it there. If you want to be in this discussion as well, part of the live conversation, hit me up with a DM, and I'll see if we can get you involved. Until next time then, guys, thank you for joining me.
Absolutely. See you guys later.
Yep, it's been fun.